Welcome to another episode of the Windsor Wednesday Show. Thank you everyone for being here. Happy Windsor Wednesday. For those watching the Windsor Wednesday Show, each week we invite a faculty or staff member, an alumnus, and then also a student to join the show, share their University of Windsor experience, why they're UWinProud, and to provide advice for incoming students. So today's guests on the show, we have at the top right, Katharen Bortolin. Katharen is a graduate from the University of Windsor MBA program, and then also she graduated with a Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences. So glad to have Katharen on the show today. Down below we have Natalie Bownes. Natalie is an alumnus as well. She graduated from Alberta, coming to the University of Windsor, now is completing a doctorate. So great to have her on the show, and currently her role at the University of Windsor is in the nursing department. And at the nursing department, she is ancillary academic staff working on clinical practice as a learning specialist. So glad to have you on the show today, Natalie. And down below, we have a student on the show, Lia Thomson. She's a third-year biological sciences student, minoring in psychology, has involvement with UWSA, and also a variety of other clubs, including SOS and Science Society. Glad to have you on the show today, Lia. So to kick off with the first question, we'll start with Lia. It's how is SOS currently helping students who are now learning online? As I know, many of the SOS programs did take place in person when we were available to go on campus, but I'm curious to know, what has the transition been like?
Yeah, so to start off answering that question, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what SOS is, just for people that maybe don't know. So SOS stands for Students Offering Support, and we're a student-run organization that raises money by offering exam aid sessions before midterms and finals for many different faculties. And we use our funds to create sustainable education projects in Central and Latin America. Most prominently, we have our Guate Groundswell project, which attempts to help not only the large dropout following grade 6 there due to youth lack of access to schooling, but also to help with the gender inequality in education. So basically, we would have Guatemalan student mentors paired with mentees, and they are provided with educational resources to help them with their schooling. And we also provide them with scholarships. And usually following the end of the school semester, the second semester, we have SOS volunteers actually going to those different communities and working on the sustainable education projects. But obviously, we had to adapt with that because of COVID. So we ran a new volunteering program, which I was lucky enough to run. And the program involved doing science experiments with the kids and teaching them the concepts behind them, and also participated in cultural sharing. But to go back to your original question, SOS has adapted back here in Windsor by running 3-hour virtual exam aid sessions before the midterms and finals. And they also have packages of notes and questions to help you guys with different quizzes that are coming up, so weekly quizzes in addition to the midterms that are coming up, just to give a little bit more aid. And they are, a donation because we are raising money for the things that I talked about before. But we actually have already released some of that information and some of the packages. But more information can be found at windsor.soscampus.com.
Amazing. And Lia, if you could give us kind of an inside scoop of what your role on SOS. What is your role like? What is it?
Yeah, so I'm the VP of International Development. So basically that means that in addition to running the e-volunteering program, I'll be representing Windsor's outreach involvement. So we're also going to be participating in different e-volunteering programs that are working in different departments besides science throughout this year. So that's basically what I'm going to be taking on this year, and just representing Windsor in that aspect.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing. And for students that are interested in receiving this support in the 3 hours of virtual preparation for exams and tests, I do recommend checking out windsor.soscampus.com. I'll put it up on screen as well for students that are interested. Thank you for sharing, Lia. Katharen, moving on to you, I'm curious to know, you completed an MBA and then also graduating in an undergrad Bachelor of Arts, Social Sciences. What sparked your interest in going in the healthcare industry? I know you're involved in it now, especially with Hospice of Windsor Ethics. What sparked that interest?
So I have an undergrad in English language and literature. So I'm a bit of an odd one when it comes to applying for the MBA, which of course allows for all different undergraduate degrees to apply, but I was a little bit less common, we'll say, compared to a lot of my colleagues. As far as healthcare, I think the very simple answer, I would be remiss if I didn't credit my mom, who worked in healthcare management. But I would also say the MBA program provided an opportunity to hear a lot of guest speakers and learn about a lot of different types of jobs. I was never someone who said, I want to be a lawyer, or I want to be a doctor, or I want to be something that is presented to you as a young child as one of, the 3 or 4 options that you learn about in school. So during the MBA program, we had a number of guest speakers, and they would speak about things that some of them, I'll be honest, I had no interest in. But what I found interesting was, okay, so I don't really like this part of the job, but this part sounds really interesting. And I would kind of start piecing together my own puzzle. And I realized that to me, I wanted to be able to go into something where I felt comfortable, putting my head on my pillow at the end of the night and feeling like I could make a difference. Also acknowledging that we have amazing, nurses and physicians in this community, and I probably couldn't be one of them because it's just not my skill set. So I wanted to be able to, feel good about what I was doing, help the community, and really believe in what I was doing, but I also knew that I couldn't be a frontline staff. So it led me to more of the healthcare leadership side. And so I get to work alongside amazing individuals and also help them do what they do every day.
Amazing. And for Katharen, what is the most interesting part of your job being Director of Community Engagement and Advancement at the hospice with Windsor Essex?
So community engagement and advancement kind of has 3 buckets. It's communications, donor relations, and events at hospice. I would say, so I've been at hospice about 1.5 years, which isn't in the hospice lens. Most people have worked there for, 20 or 30 years. It's one of those places that once people start there, they don't seem to want to leave. And I can understand why. So I would say in my lens, 1, obviously seeing the great work that we do, but 2, I knew our community was a generous one. I mean, examples like the June miracle, it's obvious our community is very generous, but every single day I go into work, there is someone offering some type of support for our hospice. And it is amazing to see that day in and day out and to be a part of that. So I would say that is probably my favorite part of the job and the most interesting because I'm not frontline staff. I do still hear patient stories, which is an added bonus, of course, but dealing with the generosity of our community each day is a wonderful thing to get to experience.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing. Natalie, so you came from the University of Alberta and you're now at U Windsor and you're completing a doctorate and you're working in the nursing department. I'm curious to know, why did you decide to complete a master's and now a PhD at the University of Windsor?
Well, nursing has been a very interesting journey. So I always knew I wanted to be in the master's program and potentially beyond. So it's really led me all over the world so far. My undergrad is in Alberta, so I've worked in rural and urban settings. I've been in Australia as a nurse. And so when I came to Windsor, I quickly became a staff member at the University of Windsor, which was very great to be back in that setting as I worked for the University of Alberta Hospital and Faculty of Nursing there as well when I was there. So it's just a natural progression. So when I was reading a little bit about your show, I just recently was staff for the last 11 years in the Faculty of Nursing as a clinical placement coordinator. So I worked with hospice and all of the agencies in the community to try to find placements for 950 undergrad students. And so very recently, after finishing my master's, I did get a faculty position and just started that. So it's just a natural progression. I love the size of Windsor. I love the community that it is and its proximity to everything that is around here. So I'm very proud to be all of those things. I was a staff member, I am a student, I am alumni, and I am faculty now too. So it's a nice little package, and I'm very happy to be all of those things from Windsor. So
yes, we're glad to have you. And for those watching who may be curious about your role, are you able to kind of give us some details of what your role includes?
Sure. So in my new role, I am now called a clinical learning specialist for the Faculty of Nursing. So there are two of us who take care of the different years in the nursing program. So my colleague takes care of years 2 and 4, and I take care of year 1 and 3 in the undergrad program. So we are mentors and clinical learning specialists for all of the clinical instructors that we oversee. So we have a large number of clinical instructors to teach our face-to-face components in the hospitals and healthcare settings. So we are helping them to lead the students in their clinical practicum, and as well as the lab work, the lab classes that we have to oversee and manage to make sure that those concepts from theory and lab are being pulled into their clinical placements at the bedside. So it's a big job, but it's really fun, and the people make it very worthwhile. So the Faculty of Nursing is amazing. So.
Amazing. That's great to hear. Thank you, Natalie. Now, Lia, so for those watching, she's majoring in biological sciences, but she's doing a minor in psychology. Lia, how come you decided to do that minor?
So my career aspiration is to become a doctor eventually. And aside from learning, human anatomy and physiology, I also want to be able to understand and connect with patients, and basically to be sympathetic to their struggles. And with the humanities minor, I can learn not only about mental health, but also about the cultural differences within our population, to just be best educated on how to treat people fairly and respectfully. So that's ultimately why I'm doing a minor in a humanities course.
Amazing. And what type of doctor were you interested in down the road?
Eventually, I want to be a surgeon. That's my goal at the moment. I'm very aware, though, that might change depending on my experiences with med school or working in a hospital directly. But my experiences now with volunteering and working at an urgent care clinic, that has made me want to pursue surgery.
Very interesting. Awesome. That's great to hear, and I wish you all the best with that. I definitely know that it will be in your future for sure. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Katharen, you completed your MBA. We talked about how it made you notice kind of you wanted to be introduced to the healthcare industry and work in that field. But how did it prepare you for the role that you're currently in?
So the MBA, and I would say almost any degree really, has 2 prongs. It has the content that you learn and then the skills that you learn. So I would obviously have to shout out all of the MBA faculty for being phenomenal in teaching content that was interesting and allowed us to understand and learn and grow as business people and leaders. And the other side of it would be the skills. So coming from a humanities background, I feel like she's speaking to me because those people call them soft skills, but they're not soft. They're actually very important. So as I went through the MBA, it redefined for me what being organized meant, or what being busy meant, or what good communication meant. When you're in an environment that's so high intensity for such a long period, you have to be yourself and you have to be authentic. You can't fake it around those people when you're with them every single day. So the soft skills, the learning to work with people, the learning to have confidence, the learning how to public speak, all those things, as well as the content, I think really translates, because the content's important. You need to know how to look, at a budget or a spreadsheet or any of those things. But at the same time, you need to know how to work with people. And that, I think, was the foundation of what such a high intensity group related project and like immersive learning opportunity really did for me. And those skills translate every single day into my job and into community involvement and to everything I do.
So would you recommend that students would pursue some type of master's degree after their undergrad?
I think each individual student has to decide what makes sense for them. There's different variations of the master's degree for the MBA specifically, and others master's degrees. I would say talking to students who went through the program would be your #1 indication to understand if it's a good fit for you. What was a good fit for me might not be a good fit for everyone. I think there is something out there for anyone who's interested in pursuing additional education, whether it's more formal like a degree or whether it's going to conferences or other things. But it does take a little bit of research, and I would say asking anyone who experienced it is your best bet to see if it makes sense for you.
Thank you for sharing. And for those watching, considering a master's degree down the road, definitely pay attention to the comments Katharen made. So thanks for sharing that, Katharen. So for students that are working in the healthcare sector or are having placements, clinical practice is looking a bit different for students. And Natalie, I'm curious to know, how has clinical practice changed due to COVID-19?
Well, that is a huge question. So, you know, we worked very hard to get the hospitals and the students back into the hospitals for this fall semester to make sure everybody was safe. So really, I think what it's doing is making us all stop. And it's not just, you know, I'm not even going to say that this is clinical practice. I think this is everybody. The whole world just has to stop and think about what we're doing. So I feel that it's going to have an impact on everything, and it already has. It's going to have an impact on policy, on, you know, best practices in the hospital. It's going to, you know, regenerate and cause changes in our healthcare system. So it's really putting a focus on how we interact with people and how we have to think before we do everything. So I think that's the biggest focus that we've made sure that the students are aware of when they're going in is think before you act. We can't just run in and try to save everyone's lives. And I've spoken to nurses in the hospital about this too. They have to take care of themselves first, or else they're going to be of no help to anyone else. And I think we all would be best, very wise to take that into consideration when we're dealing with a pandemic. So it's a very interesting societal experiment of kind of the worst kind, I would imagine. I don't know if we'll ever see anything like this in our lives again. But I think it's really allowing us to, unfortunately, it's also allowed us to see the gaps in our healthcare system and where we really need to change things and improve things with our most vulnerable. So I think all of these things it's probably about time that we are looking at all of these things that are happening in society and how to fix them now and why weren't they fixed before. So, you know, it's huge and it's not going to go away anytime soon. So I think just being mindful of, you know, who we are, who we're seeing, and what we're doing, and making sure we're safe so other people are safe too.
That's a very great point, and I'm definitely glad that students are still able to take part in clinical practice. It's definitely a time that I would say, would you say it's a needed time? Like many students, clinical practice, would you say you need more students to take part in that?
Well, that's an interesting question. I mean, our nurses and our healthcare system are probably getting close to being burnt out. It's been a very stressful time these last 6-7 months now. So we have very, very close relationships, especially with the Windsor Regional Hospital and the Hotel de Grace Healthcare in Windsor. So we're very fortunate to have such a close relationship with them and a very, very good working partnership with them. And they're very supportive of our students being back in the hospital settings, and they are very aware as well that we are their future. And if they don't allow those students to go through right now, they will limit themselves as to who they can hire in a few months. So they're very aware of the importance of not delaying the students' education, because they are going to need them in the future. So it's a very reciprocal relationship that we have with them, and we work very closely with them. So yeah, they are needed, definitely needed. So.
Great to know. That's very fair, and I definitely appreciate that you're still able to make clinical practice happen for many students, because I know they're looking so forward to that this fall. And now to go over to our favorite question of the day, we ask this on every show, is why are we proud to be University of Windsor students, faculty or staff members, and even now alumnus? So Katharen, we'll start off with you.
So there would probably be two parts to this. One, I feel for students who are starting the university this year, especially who've never experienced the feeling of being on campus in the fall. That feeling is one that I would love to relive at the beginning of every year. I mean, I was also that person that liked shopping for school supplies, so maybe I'm the odd one out, but the feeling of being on campus in the fall is one that it just felt like a fresh start, and the campus is truly very beautiful in the fall. The other thing I would say, and I guess more of a substantial answer, is the university is a place that I felt I wasn't the only one investing in my education. I felt that the university, whether it be professors, the Alumni Association, any faculty that I was a part of, they were investing in me as well. And it's something that I don't think I realized it was happening while it was happening, but I've really realized it as I've moved on beyond my degrees and reached out, looked back, connected with people, asked for support, advice. So I would say I don't, I'm a two-time University of Windsor alumni, so I don't know if people get that at other schools, but I can say at the University of Windsor, I felt that as much as I was paying for my degree and investing in them, they were also giving that back to me. And I've really, really grown to appreciate that support.
Amazing. I'm glad you've been able to grow and it's helped you in your current role. Thank you for sharing, Katharen. Lia, why are you proud to be a University of Windsor student?
I love being a university student. Honestly, just kind of what you were talking about as well. It's the environment that we have cultivated in the university. It's unheard of at larger universities. I can obviously only speak to my experience in the Faculty of Science, but in almost all of my interactions with upper-year students, I have only received positive encouragement and advice on how to get more out of your university degree, such as joining your departmental clubs or volunteering to be a mentor with the MySci Mentorship Program, which is a mentorship program for first-year science students that I run. And there's also just so much more. Basically, if you take the time to do a little bit of research and look into the different opportunities to excel in university, you'll find so many resources.
Excellent. And I think it's the great groups and student groups that students are taking part in through university that makes it the experience even better. So Lia, thank you for volunteering your time and making these initiatives happen on campus. Natalie, I'm curious to know, why are you UWinProud?
That is a really good question. I agree with everything that's been said so far. I mean, I get to wear all the different hats at the university, which is really fun. So I get to be a student, I have been staff, and I get to be faculty now. But I'm with all of you. Like I miss being on campus this fall too. I love buying school supplies, and I'm not even that kid anymore. So the campus is amazing, and it's the people that make it that way as well. The staff are amazing. It is very much a smaller university, so the attention and the access to things, I think, is much easier. I don't feel like people are just a number. I feel like they're very much recognized for who they are. And I also get to brag about Windsor a lot. Not being from here, I think it's really interesting to kind of come in and say, but you have this, and you have this, and why aren't you very excited to be in Windsor? Because you have so many things here that other parts of Canada don't have. So I think having an outsider's perspective, I'm the exchange student liaison as well for our department. So I get to brag about Windsor to the incoming students from Sweden and Australia, and have those students going back and forth all the time. So I always get to remind our students who are going out to those programs, like, you have to brag about Windsor. You have to tell them everything that we have here, because we want those students to come back here, and we want it to be the best experience that they can have as an exchange student too. So there's so much to be proud of, and I'm very proud to be all of those things, and to brag about our history, to brag about our being a border city, not during COVID times, but normally, and just the weather, everything about Windsor. So it really goes beyond the University of Windsor, but the University of Windsor is really an important part in the city of Windsor. So I think it's the heart of the city.
I'm so glad, and especially coming from a different province and coming into the University of Windsor, you do bring a fresh perspective. I appreciate you sharing that, why you're proud today. And for those watching, I do encourage you to post your photos online using the hashtag Windsor Wednesday and rep your blue and gold from home. And we're definitely going to continue to show that as a campus, we do remain together, stronger than ever during the pandemic. So I appreciate all the guests that joined me today, and we'll see you next time.